There are a lot of books and videos about the psychological impact of grief, but did you know that grief also affects your body, including your brain, your heart, and your immune system? So in this video, I will explain 6 ways that grief shows up in the body. Let's start with looking at how grief impacts the brain. When you first hear about a loss, your brain interprets it as a threat to your survival, and your amygdala triggers the fight, flight, and freeze response. So you may scream or get angry, you may run away or avoid talking about the loss, or you may faint, shut down, and feel unable to communicate. Grief also increases cortisol, which is your body's main stress hormone. Now, cortisol affects the hippocampus area of the brain, which is responsible for the storage and retrieval of memories. So the impact here is an impaired ability to form and retrieve memories. Now, this is why common symptoms of grief are forgetfulness and difficulty concentrating. Much of what goes on in the brain is unconscious or hidden from awareness. This means that months or even years after the loss, a particular song or smell may trigger a resurgence of grief as you are transported back in time. Smells take a direct route to the limbic system, including the amygdala and the hippocampus, the regions related to emotion and memory. How grief impacts the heart. Have you ever heard a story about someone's heart breaking from grief? Now, it's very rare, but it's a very real condition. It's called broken heart syndrome. The technical name is stress cardiomyopathy. Now, broken heart syndrome is a temporary condition that occurs when the heart muscle becomes weakened or stunned in response to the loss of a loved one. The left ventricle, the main pumping chamber of the heart, becomes enlarged and doesn't function properly. This can lead to a decrease in blood flow and a temporary decrease in heart function. Now, the exact cause of broken heart syndrome is not fully understood, but it's thought to be related to a sudden surge of adrenaline, which then prevents the left ventricle from contracting properly. A surge of adrenaline can also speed up the heart, causing damage to the heart cells. Now, most people recover quickly without any long-term damage to the heart, but it is true that your heart can break with grief. How grief impacts tears. Scientists have discovered that tears are visually unique and vary in appearance depending on the type of tear and the reason for its production. Now, there are 3 types of tears: basal, reflex, and emotional. Basal tears are produced constantly to keep your eyes moist and healthy. The tears are clear and thin, and they help to maintain the health of the eye surface. Reflex tears are produced in response to irritants such as dust, smoke, or bright light, and these tears contain substances that help to clear and lubricate the eyes, including water, electrolyte, and enzymes. And emotional tears are produced in response to a wide range of emotions and contain a higher level of stress hormones than other types of tears. I'm aware some people see crying as a sign of weakness and try to suppress it, but scientists have discovered that crying has a range of benefits. Crying is self-soothing and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps you relax. And shedding emotional tears release oxytocin and endorphins, which are chemicals that ease both physical and emotional pain. So emotional tears can act as a natural painkiller. Next time you feel like crying, it's important you don't suppress it. How grief impacts the immune system. Bereavement can weaken your immune system and increase inflammation. Now, the exact mechanisms by which this happens are not fully understood, but it's thought to involve changes in the production of stress hormones such as cortisol. According to a recent research study, if you're grieving, you're more likely to have lower levels of natural killer cells and lymphocytes, which can increase your likelihood of illness or infection. And there are other studies that show that vaccines may actually be less effective if you're grieving because your body is not creating as many antibodies in response to infection. How grief impacts your appetite. One common physical symptom of grief is appetite changes, which can include loss of appetite or increased appetite. Now, grief can alter the body's production of hormones that regulate appetite and metabolism. As you know, grief can lead to an increase in the production of the hormone cortisol. This can stimulate appetite and lead to overeating. Grief can also increase activity of the hypothalamus, a brain region that plays a role in appetite regulation. So when the activity of the hypothalamus is increased, this can lead to overeating. In addition to changes in appetite, grief may also lead to other physical symptoms that can affect your ability to eat, such as nausea, stomach problems, or changes in taste or smell. Now, these physical symptoms can make it difficult to eat or enjoy food, leading to appetite loss. This is why a lot of people lose weight when they're grieving. How grief impacts sleep. Grief can lead to a state of hyperarousal where the body is in a constant state of alertness and you cannot relax enough to sleep. Also, when the stress hormone cortisol is high, it can interfere with the natural sleep-wake cycle and make it difficult to fall asleep. In addition to high cortisol levels, grief may also lead to other physical symptoms that disrupt sleep, such as headaches, muscle tension, and stomach problems. Grief can also cause racing thoughts, worries, and other mental and emotional challenges that can make it difficult to relax and sleep. Dealing with grief can be a very challenging and difficult process, and it's important to remember that everybody experiences grief differently and there is no right way to grieve. It's important to allow yourself to feel and express your emotions, whether that's through crying, writing, or talking to somebody about your feelings. And it's okay to not be okay. So remember, grief can be physically and emotionally exhausting, so it's important you take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting enough rest, eating well, and that you're connecting with others, whether that's friends, family, or via therapy. Now, if you found this video helpful, you may be interested in the video on the screen now, and I look forward to seeing you soon.